Welcome to Alpine Daily for a Friday. A number of times in my life, I've explained to somebody the message of salvation. I've told them the gospel, the message that we teach in Lesson 1 of Foundations, that salvation is only possible through Jesus Christ. He is the one who saves us, and when we put our faith in Him, then we become Christians. Then we become saved and rescued, and we have a hope of heaven after this life. It's not by our works, it's by putting our faith in Jesus. A number of times when I've told someone that message, the response I get is not, "Awesome, I'm going to pray the prayer right now and put my faith in Jesus." Sometimes the response I get is, "Well, that sounds really easy. That sounds too easy. So all you have to do is just say you believe in Jesus, and then you can spend the rest of your life doing whatever it is you want, because it doesn't matter. You prayed some prayer and you're a Christian, and so that's that. That's the end of the deal." Sometimes they say, this kind of sounds like a cheap Christianity, like a cheap salvation. You just sort of confess something with your mouth and that's it. God doesn't care how you live your life. And nothing could be further from the truth. Even though the Bible says clearly that salvation is by faith and not by works, and even though we teach that passionately and clearly, if we read the New Testament, if we read the Old Testament, we can see clearly that God doesn't say, well, just believe in my Son and then live your life however you want. God has saved us for a purpose. He saved us to live purposeful and meaningful lives. And I was just reminded of that today as I was reading the book of Titus, in Titus 3:14. Really, the book of Titus is about this whole issue of, as Christians, how does God want us to live? Does God care what we do? Does God care how we use our free time and our bodies and our minds? And Paul says, yes, God does. And so he summarizes at the end of his book here, in sort of the little footnote at the end, he says, let me summarize the book of Titus for you. He says that our people, that's the church, our people must learn to devote themselves to doing what is good in order to provide for urgent needs and not live unproductive lives. Paul says, once you understand the message of the gospel, once you understand that salvation is by faith, then guess what should happen in your life? Your life should start to have more and more good works in it. Not that it's some sort of misguided attempt to save yourself or anything like that, or to somehow get right with God, but because you understand, once you become a Christian, that God has saved you for a purpose. He's saved you to do good works. He's saved you to take care of others and not to live unproductive, wasteful lives. This is what we try and teach at Alpine when we talk about Foundations Principle number 1, find out what pleases God and do it. That once you become a Christian, you should have a desire to live your life finding out what pleases God. And really, that should be our hope and our aim and our focus as Christians, that we don't become Christians and say, well, this is cool, I can just sort of kick back my feet and wait till heaven comes. But instead, once you become a Christian, once you really get it, you understand that God has saved you to live a meaningful life. So I want to encourage you, does your Christianity look like Titus 3:14? And as you think about that, I want you to pay attention to a lot of opportunities that we're going to have at Alpine in the next 2 months and in the first months of 2013, where you can take tangible steps to put into practice your Christianity, to do good works, to take care of the needs of others, and to live a productive life.